So don't get confused. Mama got that noodle juice. Mama got that.
We all sinners, just sinning for our reasons. We tryna change the vision, cause they sentence us to seasons. We turned dope to hope, I guess we finally found our meaning. Cause we tired of the death by overdoses of our people, yeah. We all sinners, just sinning for our reasons. We get it, neighborhood hope, feel like our only freedom. They judge us in their cages, then they drug us like we dangerous.
Welcome to Dope to Hope. It's a podcast where we talk about overcoming a poverty mindset to a mindset of abundance. It is here where we share our struggles, our wins, our losses, our successes. And man, we just here to learn every day. Today I'm honored to have one of my sisters I've known for a while. We came from the same area. And I'm really ecstatic today because we overcame some challenges in our life. And we're here today to talk about a challenge that Shanine is overcoming. And she wrote a book, Absence Developed Me. And this book was inspired by her son, the loss of her son, and we're going to get into it today.
It's truly an honor. I mean, I've known you, oh my God, many years.
Yeah.
But until we became adults is when we got to politic about not so much the past, but moving forward and how you get there without, because it's okay to look back, but as long as you don't stare.
Absolutely.
Because then you're looking too long. And we, it's a pleasure to be in your presence as well and on your podcast to talk about life and how we just gonna make it through to the other side. Like it's a journey. But
Yeah, because some of us have not made it, but God has given us grace and mercy.
My God, yes.
Really, what motivated you to write this book, and how you took your pain and turned it into your passion.
So, Shamar was murdered December 16th of 2021, and homicide is it's like instantaneous. Like there's no preparation, as opposed to someone being sick and you get time with them still. It just it's instantaneous. And so once he passed, I had began to journal. Like that was my way of just I don't know, not collecting my thoughts, but just expressing myself to myself. And so I had done that for the past 4 years. So when I decided to write the book, it was only after I had started studying to be a trauma-informed coach. And I needed that for me because I needed to understand how trauma, although it's a human condition or human occurrences through lived experiences, from a therapeutic standpoint, therapists talk about behavioral and cognitive disorders. But what they don't talk about, which is what being a trauma-informed coach is about, is including the systemic part of it, that our nervous system controls our trauma, our response to trauma. So when you feel stress and anxiety and all these things, that is your nervous system telling you, hey, tweak it a little bit.
Sure.
And what we have to learn how to do is deregulate, because like the tension, headaches, and the nervousness in your stomach and your heart rate speeding up and things like that, those are our body's response, our nervous system's response to trauma. So in learning that, I learned how to navigate the trauma.
Okay.
And so it made it easier with making myself vulnerable to tell my story as well as Shamar's story. And so Absence Developed Me, it merely is being able to take the traumas and the grief and the life circumstances and things like that and put it in perspective. Although there's a loss, the loss will not control or determine how I go from here. So merely, that's primarily what it is with the title. I've had losses like most people. I lost my father at 12. And in black communities, we're not taught to talk about how we feel as it relates to death and loss.
Yeah. Yeah.
So most of us in our communities, when someone passes away, we just do it's almost like routine. The person passed, you go to the wake, you go to the funeral, you go to the repast, and then life just speed past you.
Yeah.
Nobody ever once asks you, hey, how you feel? Are you okay? You need to talk to a therapist? You need help with, nobody ever, we're not taught to do that. So I remembered that feeling from being 12 years old when my father passed, and I was like, that loss compounded on when Shamar's father was murdered when I was in my early 20s, compounded to now my son is murdered. I'll probably bug out.
Yeah.
If I don't, cause now it's explosive. The grief is explosive, because remember, as long as something is not addressed, it just grows as you grow. And so then I was like, in my head, I was like, this is a recipe for combustion. Because I never dealt with none of those. I just went on, because that's what we're taught to do, just go on. But we're not taught to, how does this affect you?
And it's important to understand that how grief, how trauma affects our mental health, our well-being, and it comes out in ways that we're not sometimes aware of, cognitive of. And I know, you mentioned something about perspective, and I'm glad that you actually have a positive perspective, even though you're feeling the grief. But experiencing this, especially with my wife, my wife went back to work fast. There's times where people sort of just sit in silence. They can't move. They have to take a leave of absence, right? And because they just can't get it together. And I understand, you and her, you guys have a perspective, and a good perspective, even though it's lost. But you guys hold on to some good things that kind of keep y'all going. You know?
I think it's the support system. Because I feel like if it wasn't for Chris, and it wasn't for my mother, and it wasn't for Phyllis, and it wasn't for Ron, and it wasn't for Tasia, if it wasn't for these different people, my therapist, in my life, I don't know, I probably would have been in the nearest mental health, mental hygiene.
Yeah.
So, and then at the same time, absence developed me. It taught me coping skills, just learning what I needed to learn just to survive through the grief and the loss and the feelings and anxieties and all these different things. I know if I didn't develop more coping skills, that I'm just one step away from being on the other side of this coin.
So are you saying that writing this book, it was therapeutic and it helped you to deal?
Yes, it was therapeutic, because I have to, you have to know who you are. You have to remember who you are. I'm Shanine. I'm a recovering drug addict. I'm a ex-offender. I fit into all these categories, right? But more importantly, I'm an overcomer. More importantly, and all of those things, right? But in knowing who I am, I'm not gonna push myself against the wall. I'm not gonna not talk or cry or kick and scream or whatever I feel at the moment, because like I said, I'm just one step away. You get what I'm saying? I'm just one step from being somebody out there if I'm not careful with me.
Yeah.
You get what I'm saying? Because one thing about using is that it is a temporary fix. But at the end of the day, the whole thought for me was, I could do that and it would be justified. I just lost my only kid. It would make sense to me.
Wow.
But the flip side of that is, Shamar was so proud of me. I ain't gonna let him down in death,
Absolutely.
and I didn't let him down in life.
Absolutely.
And also that it's not gonna bring him back. It doesn't. I could jump off this roof right now, and I would just be joining him, but it wouldn't bring him back.
Yeah.
So with knowing that, the development was transformational.
Mm-hmm.
Like it was a transformative outcome for me to understand that it's okay to be happy, sad, mad, glad. It's okay. I have days I call my mother crying, "Mommy, I just want to go be with my son," and she say, "Pray." That's what she said.
Okay.
It be days I can't breathe. My heart aches so bad. It be days I be just wake up crying, and he like, "Well, what's the matter?" I'm like, "My son, why somebody do this?" Like, we're not supposed to question God, but God knew this would happen. God knew my response to this.
Absolutely.
So I'm not worried about what God think about Shanine, because God knew me in my mother's womb. And he knew this would happen. He knew my response to this, what it would be. I haven't offered that young man, he's been convicted, I haven't offered him forgiveness. I told him in the courtroom, I don't have that for you.
Mm.
I don't know if I ever will.
Yeah.
But I can't do that.
Sure. Wow.
No.
Yeah.
I can't do that.
No, we gotta stay right there, Shanine, because honestly, that forgiveness part is like, I heard the analogy, it's like giving somebody else poison, or giving yourself poison and expecting somebody else to die, right? And that forgiveness is actually the poison in you. So I would not sit here and suggest anything. God has to work that out in you, right? Has to work it out with my wife, because what it does is eat the person up, right? It eats you up. And sometimes, forgiveness is like, it's one of the harder things to do in life, right?
Because they say forgiveness is not about them, it's about you.
Yeah.
True indeed. God forgave me.
Sure.
Too many. I don't have enough fingers and toes to count.
No.
And God ain't worried about me forgiving him, because at the end of the day, God ain't gonna ask me about his sin, and he ain't gonna ask him about mine. I don't have to ever forgive him. I don't harbor resentments, but I don't have to forgive him.
Okay.
I don't have any animosities towards him, because the one thing about karma is it double back. And it doesn't necessarily hit the person who committed the offense. It can hit your kids, your mother, anybody you hold dear. When it double back, it always come back around. So I don't wish him no harm, because the universe is going to present that.
Yeah.
The God that sits high is always going to make sure that people get their just due.
Right?
It doesn't matter.
Yeah,
I've seen it because he's been convicted, but I may not never see the aftermath of it, and I don't need to, because I know God. And I'm not worried about that. So when I say I don't have forgiveness for him, no, in my humanness, I don't.
I love the part. It is in your humanness.
Yes, in my humanness, I don't, and I don't have to.
Yeah.
Because again, God knew all of this would happen. It was by design. Shamar's time here on earth, he had served his purpose, whatever that was.
Yeah.
And at the end,
made some kids.
4 kids, right. And he loved them to death.
Yeah.
And I got to see him change. He got to see me change.
Yeah.
And that was the full circle. That's what needed to happen. And that was his time. I don't tell people this a lot, because I just don't. But I had seen his death 2 years before it happened. God had showed me. I would wake up crying. He'd tell you I would wake up crying, and he would be like, "What's the matter? You all right? You all right?" "No, Shamar." I never turned my phone off for the past decade until Shamar passed. Right? I never turned my phone off. It stayed on. I never turned the volume down or nothing. Because I didn't know if he would call, if there's a problem. Like, I didn't know. So God had showed me that Shamar was gonna pass, but he never showed me specifically how the day or the time, because he knew in my humanness I would interfere in his plans for Shamar life. I would have took every paycheck I had and sent him wherever I needed to send him to save him. And if I couldn't do it, I would have called my mother, Mom, we need to get him out of here. I would have did all of that, and God knew that.
Yeah.
So had he showed me the specifics, he knew I would have intervened in his plan, and that wasn't what was supposed to happen. So when I was telling somebody this, when it first happened, they was like, oh my God, really? Yeah. A friend of mine, she was like, how you doing? How you still going on? That was your only child. I said, if I'm honest, I don't know. It could only be the grace of God, because in my heart, I could join Shamar right now, and I would be the happiest. Remember how they used to say, happier than a fat kid boy? I would be super excited, like I would be happy. But then the flip side of that is that I don't, like I have 4 grandchildren. I got a husband, I got a mother, I got my sunshine. So that's the flip side of that, right? And so to leave here would be selfish of me. So that's okay too. But those are my feelings. Like I can feel how I want to feel, because it's natural to have these type of feelings, as it relates to grief and loss. Would I act on it? No, I've never been suicidal, homicidal. I've never been any of those. But sometimes they're passing thoughts. Yeah, they coming. They're fleeting. They come and go. My therapist's like, oh well, that's natural.
And I believe God has a purpose for you and other mothers who've been through this, because what y'all have, your experience, your wisdom, to give counsel to those who may not have been through this yet, but will go through it. And because you are a few steps ahead of them, they can come to you, come to my wife, and says, yo, how do I deal with this? So let me ask you, so what are some of the hardest moments after the aftermath of
the hardest moment for me, I want to say going to the crime scene. I want to say talking to the police, and they're like, I'm like, I just need to see if that's my son. The cop's like, you got a picture? I show him a picture. He like, I'm sorry, that's him. I said, well, I need to go over there because I might can't help him, but I just need him to know that he's not by himself. He said, you can't touch him. His body a crime scene. I was like, we share the same DNA. What difference would it make? In my head, I'm like, what difference would it make? Then going to the police station, they ask you all these questions that seem invasive. Then for me, I'm like hell-bent on somebody gonna be held accountable, so I'm telling the police, Elizabeth Police, y'all got 6 months to find somebody. I don't care who it is, because otherwise I'm going on America's Most Wanted. I will shame you before I let you make Shamar a statistic in any neighborhood, in any urban America where, oh, another black man with dreads and tattoos. Negative. Yeah. It's not gonna happen. When I tell you, the aftermath for me that was impactful was that them people was working with me. Like, they was working with me. Whatever the streets was saying, I was like, this what the streets is saying. We're gonna figure this out. I'm gonna help you. Yeah. Cause he won't be a statistic. Like, that's a negative for me. So that aftermath was, I wanna say it was somewhat comforting and exciting, because I just interjected myself in the whole process of accountability. Like, yes, this is just not gonna be one of those. I'm not one of them. Yeah. I'm not gonna sit there and let you do your job. No, I'm going to help you. Whatever people is feeding me, I'm calling you, hey, this what the streets is saying. Never no names. I don't need no names. This what the streets is saying.
Yeah,
we like, listen, I'm not in the street, but Shamar had friends, they telling me what the streets is saying. Hey, this what the streets is saying. they shoot me a picture, name or this or that. This what the streets is saying. Yeah.
Nah, and you know, and what I hear is resilience, right? This is part of your quote I took. You remained a strength, a resolve, a resilience. It was a fragile ember, barely glowing, but it was there, and it would fuel my journey ahead. And I hear the resilience and the resolve here.
Yeah, I was
Like,
fighting.
yeah.
Like the same way I fought for him in life, I was fighting for him in death, because me and him used to say to each other, we used to rub our noses, and we used to say, I love you in life as I love you in death. Yeah, I'm gonna finish this. I'm not gonna rest. When it was time for court, so everybody came to court, and the guy was like prolonging the process, you know, like literally, probably if I was 25 years younger, who knows, okay?
Mhm.
Because that's how, like, it became an annoyance for me.
Yeah,
Because
yeah.
my thing with anybody that be in the street, whatever it is that people do, if you can do it, hold yourself accountable to it. If you can do whatever it is that people do, right? When it come time for them to take you,
Sure.
own it. And we don't gotta do no extra nothing. So this guy, you know, like dragging his shit out for years. And I'm like, yo, is we not tired of this guy playing with the system? Like, cause I'm tired and I'm not even law enforcement. So the day of court, you know, we go there in the morning. The judge gotta send an order to force this guy to come out the cell and all this weird stuff. Then we gotta come back at 1 o'clock. So now, like, my anxiety is really like, is this another day that
Yeah,
we came
yeah.
that we came here and it didn't happen, and we gonna get another date and this and that? So it actually took place, and I read my victim impact statement. My oldest granddaughter, she verbalized her victim impact statement, and I was holding her hand, and you know, she faced him, and he started crying, and so the authorities was like, wow, he's sincere, because I never seen an offender just break down. And then he was like, oh, I lost my mother since I've been incarcerated, and I just looked up and said, look at God. That's that karma devil and bad, because who parent passed and you can't go see him because it costs money to go see him.
Yeah.
And not that I mean, you know, not that I'm happy about the man losing his mother while incarcerated. But that's that karma. That's why we have to be careful of what we do, because they have a way of coming back, and it don't always hit you. It can hit your mother, your kids, anybody dear to you. And God kept telling me, just be easy, because everything gonna come full circle.
Yeah.
And you know, in my humanness, sometimes you get anxious and you be like, man, listen, you know, sometimes we could get street. I used to be talking to them authorities to be like, y'all fucking serious with this. Like, how long we gonna let this go on?
And it's your raw emotion.
Yeah,
right?
and
It's
I
your
was
raw
just
emotion.
sick of it all. I was just tired of it. And then that's another part, like, of resilience and overcoming and coping skills and transformative outcomes and all these things that came about from absence. Because you have to have all these things in order to even get from the date of the homicide to the court date, and then past that to today. Writing has been therapeutic. It's still therapeutic for me. I've always liked to write. And then the trauma, the impacts of the trauma were sleepless nights. Sometimes I'd be asking my therapist, I'd be like, I know I'm not crazy. She like, you're not crazy. Cause I be talking, like I'm I wanna say I'm a thinker, I'm analytical, I'm all these things. So when I have all these thoughts going on through my mind, I have to bounce it, because I'm like, I know damn well I'm not crazy. I know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
But my whole point is what it sound like to somebody else.
Mm.
You get what I'm saying? Because when you're talking to people who are not where you are in your process, and maybe have not even begun the process of transformation, recovery, how to deal with loss and grief and how to move forward. Some of what you say it would sound weird because they can't even identify exactly with what your experience is, because it's my lived experience. So if somebody hasn't had the same lived experience, it might sound relatable, but to actually identify it, you can't.
I think that's where emotional intelligence come in at, right? Because it's having empathy and understanding the best way you can, and knowing that this person I haven't experienced it, but I need to actually put myself as close as I can to understand the pain that the person is feeling, right? The actions that they may have. So this is as husbands, right? We have to be there. So let me just get to, you said the healing process of my family and for me requires more than simply overcoming individual grief.
I think so. So when we talk about grief, right? When people talk about grief, people automatically associate grief with death. Same thing, for example, with recovery. When people talk about recovery, they automatically associate it with drugs. When we recover daily just from living, with grief, you grieve the loss of a job, you grieve the loss of a car, you grieve getting evicted, you grieve, like this. The subject matters are brief, although we keep it in a box, right? So when I say about my family, I think that when we talk about families and intergenerational trauma and intergenerational belief systems, right? Everything we know, we were taught, right? Everything in this life is a learned experience. So when our grandparents and their parents, they come from, most of them come from some part of the South, right? They come from, my grandmother passed away, my mother's mother, when she was 100, so she probably had been through some parts of slavery and things like that. Right, all that stuff, the 1964, all those acts and this and that, right? They come from that time period. So when they teach their kids, they're teaching them survival from that time period, which unfortunately is not the same survival of our lifetime. But since it's a belief system, it's transferable. Just like Christmas. We celebrate Christmas. We don't know if that's, you talk to some people, it's a pagan holiday, like Valentine's Day. You talk to some people, that was a massacre. So we only know what we were told, We don't know for sure. So when we talk about those things, we have to be mindful that just because our parents said it doesn't make it a fact. Just because, perfect example, generational trauma. In Black communities, we're going in this house, stay in this house. Okay, so if somebody is abusing me or molesting me or doing this and that, it's supposed to stay in this house. But nobody ever thought, you can't tell, because they don't know how to articulate it. So when we talk about the intergenerational traumas and things like that, for me, in my upbringing, it was an emotional detachment. Like I associated acceptance with good grades. So I've always been a beast in school, always. When I stopped going, I was working on my doctorate last year. My GPA at over 50 years old, 3.8. So I've always been a beast in school, but I've always associated that with approval from my mother. My only kid, I get it. But it was still something missing. And that's a part of the intergenerational trauma. Like, I'm not saying it's her fault because when your parents can't give you what they don't have.
Absolutely.
So you learn through your life, just be different. Because growing up, it's not like we could say to our parents, ask questions about their parents. Because I know in black families, like, your parents don't talk about their parents.
No.
Like, it's a lot of stuff that you'll never know.
And we find out so much, like, when we get adults, right? And
Start
we be
paying
like,
attention to
wow,
stuff.
like, yeah, like, y'all ain't prep us for this.
Right.
Right? Y'all just kind of hid this. So,
Yeah.
this generational behaviors, traumas,
Mm-hmm.
you mentioned something, Shanine, and you mentioned something about his dad, right? And was his dad killed, or was that
Yeah.
just some, right?
Mm-hmm. Shamar's father was killed in 92.
So we look at this, right, and we see, as if, biblically it says, we pay the sins of our father's sins, right? And it happens, and we learn the behavior. So these things were passed down genetically. They're learned behaviors. Even if dude ain't nowhere to be around, it's in the DNA. And I was talking the other day to a group, and I was just talking to them about words, right? And how the mothers used to say, "You just like your father." Hold on, you don't like that dude.
Right. So
You said he ain't.
Right.
Now I'm just like him.
Right.
So what is that doing to me,
Exactly.
right?
Yeah.
What is the word shaping in my mind? You don't like my and
It's a form of conditioning.
Yeah.
Inadvertent conditioning. Because that's just like if you tell a kid, if you keep telling the kid, you bad, what do you think they're gonna do? They're gonna be bad. Because
absolutely.
if you as the parent is telling them, or grandparent, whoever's raising them, if you're telling them they're bad, they're gonna start being bad, because it must be what you want them to be. Because why are you keep saying I'm bad, I'm not bad? Then they become bad.
Yeah.
You said I ain't shit. I'm not gonna be shit.
Yeah.
So it's the conditioning, but I think what we don't understand is verbal abuse is worse than somebody hitting you.
Yeah.
Because once somebody hits you, it's pretty much over.
Yeah.
But them words, they stick to you like a knife in your heart. And some of them words can't get undone because they become embedded in your psyche, and you begin to believe the lies. And you become what you think they want you to be. Yeah. And that's another part of trauma. Like, a lot of those things are traumas that we didn't see as traumas, because it's almost like a normalcy to saying all these weird things when you have a problem with your kid, instead of just sitting them down and say, "Hey, you all right today? What happened?
Yeah.
You want to talk about something? What happened at school today?" So I just take, for my kid, for Shamar and my grandkids, like, I just always say, I'm so proud of you. You're doing such a great job, because I want them to believe that they are great. And as long as they believe they're great, they will be great.
That's right. So what do you think we can do, both as individuals and as societies, to break the cycles of trauma and loss?
In breaking the cycles of trauma and loss, I think that more in black communities specifically, we have to emphasize that there's nothing wrong with going to therapy. Therapy is not a taboo like most people have been told. Well, go on in this house, stay in this house. That's the biggest lie they ever could have told, because now you have a world full of people who have been exposed to various forms of traumatic experiences, who hold on to that stuff, and they won't go get help knowing that they need help. They go use drugs or do all kinds of other things to find a sense of belonging, because what do I belong to if the people who were supposed to protect me allowed this to happen to me, and nobody ever said it was wrong, and nobody ever said, "Hey, I'm gonna take you to talk to somebody. You may not want to let me know what happened, but you could tell them. They're bound by HIPAA laws. Your secrets is safe. Your secrets is safe. You could tell whatever." And that is what has to happen. Because if it doesn't, look how many kids are just completely out of control in our communities. And not because they're bad, because they don't know how to navigate the trauma and navigate the emotional
feelings,
state of being. They
Yeah.
have all these things going on. They have witnessed domestic violence. They have witnessed substance abuse. They have witnessed overdoses, and they have seen and been exposed to so much as a kid up till, I want to say, even up to 18. What do you do with all that?
Mm-hmm.
What do you do with all that?
You know, I one of the things that, short phrase, but hurt people. Like it is, that's what happens.
Exactly.
Right? I've been hurt. And the only thing that I can do is
that would
hurt
make me
somebody
feel
else.
a little bit okay.
It is hurt somebody else.
Mhm.
Now and then sometimes the hurt may come from this person ain't have nothing to do with it.
Right.
But I can't do anything to that person because it could have been my loved one. It could have been that when I was little. You know, before, what made me choose my therapist is we was in a group setting, the Winning Circle, and he was explaining a traumatic situation with him, and he said, trauma does not have a shelf life.
It don't.
And like, when he said that, it just made me go back all the way back to when I was 13, right? When this happened to me. And I'm saying, hold on, I need to talk to you.
Yeah.
Because you know what? I'm still dealing, no, scratch that. I haven't addressed that.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And I needed to, so I can move on.
Yeah.
So, looking back, what advice would you give your younger self about navigating through grief?
That's kind of, I don't know, that's kind of not difficult, but as a 12-year-old kid, you don't navigate through grief. Again, in our communities, like when we look at Caucasian communities, for example, it'd be 5-year-old kids in therapy. We'd never see. We would never, see that. We would get a spanking before they took you to get some help.
Yeah.
So, at 12 years old, when my father passed, I think to my younger self, if I had a voice, when you're a kid, you do what your parents say, and that's just it, right?
Yeah.
But if I had a voice and a choice, I would say I need to talk to somebody. I think I need help because I'm daddy's little girl. Now what happens to me?
Mm-hmm.
What do I do? My father passed when he was 38. What do I do?
Would you have brought Shamar, the person who you are now, what you know now, would you have brought him to therapy, or did you bring him to therapy? I'm sorry.
Shamar was grown when I first started going. Well, in hindsight, because we talking about my younger self.
Yeah.
Yes, I would have taken him. I had taken him to meetings at a time. I had taken him. He went everywhere I went.
Yeah.
He knew too damn much too. He knew too damn much. But yes, I would have. Because all he would do is sit on my lap and just, long as I'm sitting there listening, he would just sit there too. He don't know what's going on. But yes, I would have exposed him to that. I remember talking to him. He was having issues about his own father. Mom, but why he leave? He was grown. Not long before he passed, but why he leave me? I said, he didn't leave you. He got murdered.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, yeah, but why he put himself in that position? Son, I don't got those answers.
Yeah,
You got to
yeah,
talk to God.
yeah.
Or I said, maybe you want to go get therapy. Go talk to somebody. Because I don't know. I don't have those answers. People don't volunteer to get murdered. It's instantaneous. I don't know. But he loved you. And you was in New York with him more than you was here. In your younger years, I said, but I don't, I don't know. So I think so that kind of bothered me too because I didn't have the answers as parents we think we're supposed to have.
Yeah.
And know all, solve all, fix all.
Listen, we doing the best we can.
And I didn't have that, and I
Yeah.
said, I'm sorry, I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Like you got to talk to somebody because I don't got the answers. But I would have took him to therapy with me, and I would have wanted to go to therapy because I feel like we all have childhood traumas. We all do. Some maybe have been worse than others, but I think every black person need to start talking to somebody.
Absolutely.
Because our communities is raggedy. Even the people that we have in these positions, these council people, and all these people, like I often wonder, like, what are they doing? Because there's so much havoc in the city. Like, what are these people doing?
In prison is not the answer,
No.
right? Like, we think, of course, it's privatized as business now, right?
But it no longer serves as a deterrent.
No,
Initially,
no.
going to jail was to be a deterrent, prevent you from going back. Now it's about making sure that the recidivism is active, the back and forth, the back and forth, the back and forth, because they get paid off of every head. It's about money. It's revenue. Prison is big business, like you said, it's privatized. But even now, even with that, like, maybe if some of these kids have mentorship or leadership or counseling, that a lot of these kids, and then even if they had some of the street cats, the old heads, to just be honest and say, hey, you might not want to do that.
Yeah.
It's only
Yeah.
2 ways out, death and the grave.
Absolutely.
The streets don't love you back. All they do is make room for your family to bury you.
Yeah.
Like, maybe if it was some old heads who just kept it 1,000, like they say, with these kids, and just told them it might, like, some of them will shift because
Absolutely.
they won't. Nobody wants to die.
Yeah.
Nobody wants to go to jail. So I think it's a lot that have to be done, and I even said that I'm gonna start doing something. I want to do something with women, just mothers of murdered kids.
No, you should, and
Because we all have
we
something.
should.
It's a
We
conversation that nobody outside of our group, they don't know how we feel, really. I mean, we wear, it might look good, it might look like things are great, but shit, like I said, it be some days I can't breathe. My heart aches so bad, But I just keep going, and I just cry about it, and I talk about it, I write about it, and I just keep going.
and that's that's the good thing. All of those expressive emotions, being able to talk about it, right? You ain't keeping it pinned up, and you're able to write about it. You're able to cry. And as far as just getting back to the OGs, right?
Mm-hmm.
This is my plight in life, right? To take what my experience and what God has allowed me to go through,
Right.
and go to the youth and share my experience and let them know, like, it don't have to be this way.
No.
And because I've been one exposed to therapy, I agree with you. I think we all
I have
need
told
it,
so many people, like different people talk to me, and some people might have an issue with a parent, and I'll be like, sound like you should.
Yeah.
Sound like you should. Because I don't want to be the therapist, and a lot of times people talk to me, and they like talking to me, and I like talking to people.
Yeah.
One lady's like, "Oh, can you because she know I'm a coach. Can you be my coach?" I said, "This is conflict of interest." When you have personal relationships with people, no. Ethically, although coaches don't operate under the ethics of counselors per se,
Yeah.
to me, ethically, I would be doing you a disservice because some of what you may say to me, I would talk to you as a friend and not a professional, because I know you personally. You get what I'm saying? So I'm not doing you any service. So ethically, I wouldn't coach a friend. I wouldn't. It has to be a stranger because the connections. And not that I wouldn't tell them the right thing, but I just don't want to be put in a compromising position either.
Yeah.
So, in safeguarding them, I'm going to safeguard me as well. So I wouldn't do that.
Okay. All right, so this is our last question
Okay.
before we wrap it up. What conversations do you think we need to have in our communities to address violence and its lasting effects?
I think that when it comes to violence, I think that much of the violence we see is because the people who are in positions of power have distanced themselves from the violence. Because if I could pretend that it ain't happening, then maybe it ain't happening. I remember when I first heard that Elizabeth dismantled the gang unit, how when you got homicides as a result of gang violence, how do you dismantle the gang unit? Like, how does that make sense?
Yeah.
So when we looking at community, then we looking at these community activists, I see them cutting ribbons in at parties. I don't know where you see them at. I haven't seen them, like in the community. And then I feel like, and this is something I thought about, but I'm still up in the air about it, about possibly running for something, because I feel like if somebody been in office 30 years, it's time for you to get some new ideas in there, because your ideas are antiquated. When you stop engaging, not being at parties and ribbon cuttings, I'm saying in these communities with these people, with the city folk.
Yeah.
When you can't have a community meeting at the local elementary school or even the library or wherever, where you could actually engage people from Midtown, downtown, uptown, Elmora, wherever, and talk to them and see, like, what do they need to happen in their communities to make their community better.
Absolutely.
When you stop doing that, then you have stopped doing the will of the people, and that's just my opinion.
Okay.
That's just my opinion.
Well, listen, I'm gonna plug Regeneration, because this is what we gonna do with our nonprofit. We're gonna address these issues. We're gonna tackle the root of the violence, right? And we want to, get to address the compulsive behaviors. And we're just not talking about alcohol and drugs. It is just, that is the coping mechanism. That's all that is.
Drugs are the symptom.
Yes.
Drugs are the symptom to underlying mitigating factors of abuses and witnessing violence and incest and sexual assaults and all these things. That's just a cover. It's just a cap on it.
Yeah.
But until we start allowing these kids to speak freely, hey, my uncle such and such touched me.
Yeah.
And there's no recourse. You're not gonna get in trouble. We're not calling Davis. We're gonna have his ass arrested.
You need a safe space.
And you need to be removed. You need a safe space.
Yeah.
To get away from that, because if the people who are supposed to protect you are unawarely or ignoringly letting these things happen after you said, hey, I don't feel comfortable around such and such, then that's the whole environment is a problem. So you need to dissipate that whole structure there. Something else needs to happen there.
And
I
this
think
is
we
why
need mentors too. We need mentors.
Look, and this is why you gotta stay here and don't go join Smart. Look, we got work to do. And with that, I appreciate this, and more than you know. And I
no
appreciate
worries. Thank you
your
for having me.
openness and being able to discuss this. And listen, we got work to do in our community.
Yeah.
And we have enough motivation, enough reason to help somebody else. And the loss that we experienced, it's enough for us to do something for the next person.
Exactly. Even, and my thing is, even for me, it's not about helping 25 people. If I helped 5. I have
Sure.
done what God needed me
Absolutely.
to do, because everybody is not going to get it.
Yeah.
Everybody don't want your help, and that's and I get it. I understand that too. But we have to extend a hand, because it's something going on
Yeah.
that is not right, and where are the people at
Yeah.
that are supposed to be in the field? Where are they
Look,
at?
we right here. We doing it. We doing it from this ministry right here. So listen, go buy the book. It's on
And thank you
Amazon.
so much.
Where any other places?
It's on Amazon. It's on Barnes and Noble Press.
Any social media that they can get in, look you up?
I'm on Facebook.
Okay.
Shanine Brown Milliner. I'm on Instagram. What's my Instagram?
For the best thing, one of my
I'm on
mentors told me.
Instagram. Lovely5568 2023. You can look me up. Shanine Milliner. I'm on LinkedIn. Shanine Milliner. The book is awesome. I'm sure it could help anyone who has experienced trauma, resilience, transformational outcomes, gratitude and grief. Like we touch on, so I touch on so many subject matters that it's unbelievable, and you won't be disappointed.
All right, go get the book, y'all. We appreciate y'all. Till next time, catch up with y'all. Peace.
Thank you.